Hello, hello. Hopefully you guys can hear me. It sounds like you can. I think so. All right. Oh my gosh, what a day, what a day. It has just been one of those days. So we are going to continue from, I think it was Monday, right? Where we spoke about assessments and how they can affect your present levels, right? So present levels are what? Your meat and potatoes of your IEP. So we're going to talk about how assessments are the way to have your present levels be really on point, okay? And it's not just like we spoke about on Monday. Hold up, we're going to get there today. We're going to talk about how not just assessments, meaning norm-based assessments, but curriculum-based assessments really combined together will really do your child justice and will help you understand where your child is presently and then where your child can build to. So it's really important to understand that building your child to the next step is where goals come in, okay? So if your child is right here, you want to get them over here, right? So you're going to be able to create goals based on the assessments, the norm-based and the curriculum-based, to get where you need to go. Hey, how are you? We'll talk later, girl. It's been, one of those days. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. Now, with that said, I want you guys, as you hop on, to post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live, and post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie, okay? So a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie, a 1 below if you are new. And I want to know where you're from, so tell us where you're from. Are you from Texas? Are you from Montana? Are you from California? Make sure you post that below, okay? And make sure, too, that if you put in the search bar, Autism Mama Rocks IEP group, you can join the group if you're interested. It's a great group. I love it. But there's so many amazing women and grandmas and moms and dads and everybody on there. It's really cool. I love it. And I love how they do their thing. I don't have to be on there 24/7, so I love that. Now, today we're going to be talking about the assessments that you want to get, all right, to be able to really see where your child is. And I'm going to recap a little bit from the last conversation because it's really important to understand this because a lot of schools are going to push back. I had that happen and am having that happen currently where the school does not want to address the fact that they need to update the present levels. They want to kind of avoid things that are going on. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Alethea. Hi, Kristen. Avoid what's going on and act as if it's not happening. And that's just not okay. And, I think I said the day before yesterday, I think it was, or maybe it was yesterday. I've lost track of my days because things are so crazy. But it's frustrating. Like lately, it's really caught up to me of how frustrated I am. And I'm frustrated because there's so much wrong going on. And I wish I could just snap my fingers and change it all, but I'm only one person. So I can only do so much, right? So I try to serve everybody, but it's hard because there's so many people that are going through a hard time and I can only do so much. Stinks. And what stinks even more is the fact that school systems are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing and really screwing over our kids. That's just keeping it very frank and simple. So moving forward. All right. So we know the present levels are the meat and potatoes of our IEP, right? So with that said, when you create, all right, present levels, you are then creating basically the whole enchilada of the IEP, okay? So you have to have that right for the rest to be right. So your goals, your services, your accommodations, your modifications, they're all from present levels. So what do I mean by that? So in your present levels, if you say your child has a lot of deficits in speech, All right, well, say it's pragmatic and expressive and receptive language, all right, which is everything in regards to speech. So then you're basically saying, okay, what is coming in is not being received. What is going out is unable to be expressed, all right? And then the language within itself is very difficult. So when that does come out. And so if you have a child that is not receiving information, cannot express information, and then when they're speaking, it's very difficult for them, then that would go into your present levels, all right? And the deficit breakdown of the expressive, receptive, pragmatic would then go into detail, which it should, which I've not seen very many IEPs like that. And it needs to go into detail as to where that deficit really lies within that topic, so to speak, okay? So just pretend expressive language was a topic. That's a deficit, but let's just pretend it's a topic. How in expressive language, where is the deficit falling from, coming from? And that needs to be written out, okay? Is it just certain things that the child's having a hard time expressing? Is it everything? I want to know the details, because that's how goals will be established. Like, where is that? And that's where a curriculum-based assessment will come in. So then you break down what the deficits are within that topic. Really, it's a deficit. All right. And then you're able to really come up with some pretty awesome goals. And you're able to say, oh, okay, the child has expressive and receptive language and pragmatic difficulties. Okay, the child needs speech. You know what I mean? And then how extensive the deficit is how much would then be provided. Make sense? So the same thing with OT and sensory issues and the things that come with that, like handwriting, and then the same with physical therapy. You know, the different deficits need to be broken down, all right, even further, all right? So if, for example, your child has low muscle tone, all right, okay, pretend that's the topic, not the deficit, and break it down even more. Okay, which can be done. Okay, where is the low muscle tone? How is it affecting the child in the gen ed setting? How is it affecting the child in all settings? What is the effect, the impact on the child due to low muscle tone, wherever that is? Okay, so you can always break things down, and that's where you're going to really get to where the child is presently. Okay, so, you know, if you and I were just chit-chatting, and you were saying, you know, because I have back issues, okay? So I can say, oh my God, I'm in pain today, right? Well, that doesn't really mean anything. So now pain, you can pretend that's the topic instead of the deficit, that's what's going on, right? And then you break it down. Okay, where is the pain? What is it stemming from? What do you think has caused it to spike up today? You know, those different types of things. Same thing with behavior, all right? Say your child has a certain behavior. Say the behavior is screaming, screeching, okay? So then that's the topic. Pretend it's a topic, not a deficit, all right? So change the verbiage, all right? And then break down screeching, all right? The child's screeching. How does the child sound? He's really, really, really loud, you know? And then you're breaking down the fact that the student is screeching in the gen ed setting only, or the child's screeching in all settings. So you want to break down that topic and explain where is it happening, what's causing it, what's happening before that topic occurs. Okay, really the screeching is the deficit. All right, so all I'm doing is changing the verbiage. That's all I'm doing. Okay, so everything can be broken down, and then you're able to get even better present levels. All right. Now let's talk real quick and recap. Norm-based assessments, all right, are your KTEA, your WISC-5, your WIAT, all of those evaluations, okay? Then a curriculum-based assessment is when your child may sit down with a psychologist, all right, and the psychologist then does testing side by side herself on work, has observed the child, you know, in the classroom, has observed the child's, you know, work, has observed the child working with her or him, and, you know, is able to kind of break down different things that they want the student to do to see if the child is able to do that. And then they're able to break that down even more to find where the deficit may lie. All right. One thing I mentioned when I did this the first time the other day was I love when the norm-based assessment is done first, because that's going to show those what? Low areas, the low average, the significantly low, and all of that kind of stuff. And then when the curriculum-based assessment is done, the evaluator there, which is the psychologist, it could be the special ed teacher, it could be a diagnostician, but that person can then focus on those areas that were low, significantly low, below average, all of those things, and then be able to hone in to really specify and focus on where that need really is, okay? Because it could say, you know, auditory processing, working memory, etc., but then that is again a topic and you want the breakdown of it all so that you understand it in detail. And so then that's what the curriculum-based assessment can then come into play and do for you. All right. Schools are not wanting to do this at all. They're doing these, I'm just going to say it how I normally would say it, half-assed assessments. Okay. And then many of them, not all of them, I've actually seen some really good ones. But many of them are just very poorly written, or like I told you how I had a speech evaluation where it was very detailed, and then the speech therapist then had 4 sentences of a summary with no recommendations. So it's very confusing to me how you can do, and I asked the speech therapist this, who couldn't answer it, how do you do an assessment in so much detail, have 4 sentences for a summary, no recommendations, which is required in a evaluation. What are the recommendations of the qualified therapist as to what they would recommend the student do? All right. If you go to an outside therapist, they always put what in the back? The recommendations for the child after their assessment. All right. And usually it's a bunch of recommendations because you're trying to play with it and see what works and what doesn't. So those are really important things to know. Okay. So let's talk about some reading skills and measures. Okay. I love reading, you know that. And so let's talk about some of the assessments there. All right, so we have the KTEA 3. I really like that one. It has letter word recognition, all right? It has nonsense word decoding, all right? So that is so the first one, the letter word recognition, is word reading, all right? The decoding, phonological, and morphological, it's hard to say, morphological, and that one is where the no-nonsense word decoding comes in. Hey, Kim, how are you? The next one is silent reading comprehension. It does reading comprehension in the KTEA 3. I like the KTEA 3. That's one of my faves. The reading rate. See, I can't speak today. Word recognition fluency. It also has silent reading fluency. Combines sentence reading rate with sentence comprehension. All right. And then it has a decoding rate and decoding fluency, which I really like. It does not have a reading recall, which is fine. But I really like that one. So now let's compare that to the Wyatt 3. Okay. So if you're hopping on, post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. And if you're new, you only have 3 times. So you might as well tell us where you're from and tell us a little about yourself if you'd like. Make sure you join the group at Autism Mom Rocks IEP group. Put that in the search bar. So anyway, we're moving on. We're talking about assessments and what is good for your child and what makes sense. Okay, so the Wyatt 3 does the word reading, which is the, it's a little different from the KTEA that does letter word recognition, all right, where the Wyatt 3 does word reading. A little bit different, all right? So under the decoding, phonological, and morphological, the Wyatt does pseudo word decoding, where compared to the KTEA 3 does the no-nonsense word decoding, all right? Then you have under silent reading comprehension, it does reading comprehension. Okay, so that one does reading comprehension. Then you have silent reading fluency. It does not cover that at all. All right. Then you have, where is it? Okay, so reading rate. So it does oral reading fluency instead of where the KTEA did word recognition. It did silent reading fluency, and then it did that combining sentences with reading rate. All right. So that is kind of where that is. Okay. It does not do decoding fluency, and it does not do reading recall. So if you were to compare the KTEA and Wyatt 3, they do basically the same thing, but the KTEA does more. Okay? So that's how that goes. All right. So the next thing is the WJ5. All right. That's the Winston Johnson 5. All right. So the numbers is the test number in regards to where, how do you explain that? Okay. So for example, the KTEA and Wyatt 3, they started at 3, right? So this is the one I'm talking about. Wyatt is now on a 5. Okay, so it started out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it has to do with, it's kind of like your cell phone, you know, upgrades. Okay, so in this one, I'm talking about the 3. I'm going to be building on this in assessments because I really want to focus on present levels and why it's so important and how you get them and how you really need to focus on these assessments, the norm-based and curriculum-based, so that you can have adequate present levels, so then you know exactly where your child's needs are and you're able to focus on that. All right. So then you have the WJ5. All right. So that does letter word recognition, just like the KTEA, where the Wyatt did the word reading. And then the WJ5 also does word attack versus the Wyatt doing the pseudo decoding, pseudo word decoding. And then you have the KTEA doing the no nonsense word decoding. All right. All 3 being good. The Wyatt has a 4th edition now. It has a 5th edition too. Technically be the last year, the 3rd edition is right. Yeah. It just came out with a 5th edition, and then the Whisk is on 5 as well. Santana. Are you a teacher? Okay. So then the next thing is the silent reading comprehension. So that one does passage comprehension, where remember, compared to the Wyatt, it did reading comprehension, and then the KTEA did reading comprehension as well. So just like Santana said, you know, the Wyatt has a 4th edition. She's correct. The cool thing with that, school psychologist. Okay, cool. So the cool thing about that, all right, is it's like, and she probably can attest to that being a psychologist, is it's like your cell phone. They just upgrade and, you know, make it better, that sort of thing, you know, kind of keeping up to date with the times, so to speak. All right. But nothing usually goes away. They build on it. It gets better. They perfect the areas in which they focus on, and it is supposed to be better. Okay. Is it better? Maybe Santana can ask that. I don't know. I think it really, you're going to kind of get the same results, other than a test that's just recently came out has more things versus another, if that makes sense. Okay, so the next thing is the reading rate. So it has word reading fluency, sentence reading fluency, combined sentence reading rate with sentence comprehension, and then it does oral reading fluency. All right, so remember, compared to the Wyatt 3, all right, which the 4 and 5 do this as well, it does oral reading fluency, where the KTEA 3 does word recognition fluency and silent reading fluency. Now let's talk about that for a second. Oh, and the one thing that the WJ5 does that the other 2 don't do is reading recall, but it does not do anything with decoding fluency, just like the Wyatt 3 does not do anything with decoding fluency. That's why my favorite has always been and has been and stays to be the KTEA 3. All right? So the KTA 3 has everything except the reading recall. All right. And I like under reading rate, I like that it's word recognition fluency versus the Wyatt 3 does oral reading fluency. Think about it. Oral reading fluency is that your child can read words. It doesn't mean that your child can read. All right? Where word recognition fluency is that your child can recognize the word in which they're reading. So which one do I want to know? Do I want to know that my child can read words and understand them? Or do I want to know that my child can just read words? Do you see what I'm saying? So I love that about the KTEA. Then you have the WJ5. That one also does word reading fluency. I like that. So if you were to take the KTA3 and the WJ5, pick two, it would be the WJ5 and the KTEA. Get rid of the Wyatt. All right? So if that's where you're going to kind of choose. All right? There's also a PAL 2 and a Tower. I'm not going to really talk about those because those are like almost never done. So I'm not even going to talk about those. All right, so now we're going to talk about the WISC 5. All right, so that one does verbal comprehension score index, and then the composites combine tasks that assesses reasoning with verbal information. I know I'm talking a lot, so you guys might have to go back and listen to this. Combine tasks that assess reasoning with verbal information with tasks that assess retrieving and expressing verbal information. So I'll say that one more time. Composites combined, and they're combined tasks that assesses reasoning with verbal information with tasks that assess retrieving and expressing verbal information. All right? So that's interesting, and we're going to go through that in a second. And then there's composite content estimates. And then there's reasoning abilities and language abilities. Okay? So we're going to talk about that. There's other tests on here. There's the SB5 knowledge factor score. And then there is also the WJ5 comprehension knowledge extended. We're not going to talk about those. We're just going to talk about the WISC 5 right now. So if you were to say, which ones am I... Yeah, it's a lot of information. So if I were to like say which ones am I kind of comparing, I would say the KTEA, the Wyatt, and the Winston Johnson, and the WISC 5. All right, so those 4. All right, those are the most popular ones. I love that you're covering the tests. They're so similar but different, especially in how that's right. That is right. Thank you, Santana. I appreciate that. I would love to have you come on live with me. Oh my gosh. You should message me. I'm so happy that you're a fan, because I know I can, be a bulldog pretty quickly. So I'm so glad that you're a fan. All right. So let's talk about the WISC 5. So you have, basically it combines 2 subtests. So certain tests have subtests. All right. And so you got your big test, and then you have smaller tests within it, all right? And the similarities and vocabulary, all right? But does provide an alternative measure. So it says similarities and vocabulary, but does provide an alternative measure. Comprehension, which is a strong measure of reasoning with language. And then it tells you to note that if vocabulary subtest scores are significantly lower than the similarities subtest score, consider using an average of the 2, okay, to estimate verbal reasoning ability. I like that. I like that because it's saying, hey, they may do really well here and they may not do as well here, but the 2 are very comparable and they work together. So you basically take that higher score and that lower score and put them together for an average score. I like that because it makes sense. If something correlates to another, you want to be able to give your child the credit that they should have as to what they're understanding, comprehending, verbalizing, etc. All right? So the composite content estimates, you have 50% reasoning or 50% vocabulary. It could be 25% reasoning. It could be 75% vocabulary. So you can range as to where that child is as far as their content and estimate and how they're doing with reasoning versus vocabulary. All right. And then there's reasoning abilities. So that's a similarity subtest, comprehension subtest. And then you have other subtests like ones with expressive language. The NEPSI 2 is one that can be done somewhat often. And that's narrative memory. And then you also have the WJ5 that has story recall, which I do like. And then the visuospatial translation of language, the NEPSI does that, which is comprehension of instructions. Another one that I really like is the SELF 5. This one talks about the SELF 4. It was my printout from a couple years ago. But I like how detailed it is, and there's not a lot that are as detailed as this one now. And the tests have not changed other than they've upgraded to different ways in which they're assessing. Okay, so the WISC-5 basically added on some vocabulary, and then you have one that has general and academic knowledge, so it has added that, and that's more under the written expression piece of it. Okay, so processes, processing measures, written expression. You have your graphomotor production and automaticity of handwriting. I can't even say that stuff. So you have alphabet writing, you have coding copy, you have sentence writing fluency, and writing fluency, and alphabet writing, and those different types of writing that you can get the child to do to see how they're doing with their written expression. So bottom line, guys, in all these assessments, what's important to remember is it's not always the assessment that's the most important. It's who is doing the assessing. Who is doing the assessing is the person that is going to really establish and show you a clear picture of what your child can do. And what is unfortunate is a lot of people don't care. And, I see it all the time online, on the teaching websites, on the teaching Facebook, stuff like that I'm part of. And it's very unfortunate because I respond a lot in them, because it's things that I so highly disagree with. But you need to have an assessor that cares. And, what is happening now is, assessments aren't being done as well as they should be. They're not reflecting the whole picture, and then the parent is frustrated, and then an IEE is requested, and then you're moving forward with other measures when honestly the school system can do the assessments just as well. It's just getting the right person in there to do the assessment and then to do it accurately and with fidelity. So that is very, very important. That's one of the most important pieces, because it wouldn't matter what tests you did if you had somebody who's really good at doing the assessments. And, I talk to teachers and psychologists and people all the time, and I really like learning from them. Number one, I'm not a teacher anymore, but, I was an educator for many, many, many years. And, one of the things I really liked was collaborating, and that's not happening as much anymore. It's more a dictation from the principals and the higher ups. And there's not as much collaborating going on anymore. It's more dictating. And it's unfortunate that things are kind of going down that track. But you still have some amazing people out there who really take pride in what they're doing, assess our children with fidelity, and we're able to get really good evaluations. Like I told you of an evaluation that I have of a student in California, and it was a 51-page evaluation. She did almost every evaluation, and it was so thorough. There was no question that you could get anything better. And that's the way you want to feel after an assessment's done, that it was done so well and then written so well with clarity so that you can understand that you had no other questions other than just asking questions about the test within itself. not so much questioning the test itself. Okay? So that's really, really important to remember. So let's move on in regards to written expression and with all of these assessments, okay? So the KTAA does spelling, the Wyatt does spelling, and so does the WJ5. All right, they all do spelling. The WJ5 adds spelling of sounds as well. Written expression, they all do that, but KTEA does solely written expression. Wyatt does sentence composition, essay composition. So that the Wyatt is not always for everyone, because if a child cannot do that type of thing, then it would be better to do like the KTEA and have written expression and just see what they can do versus an essay. All right. And then you have the WJ5 that does writing samples, editing, punctuation, and capitalization. All right. So they all do different things, but it's within the same realm of what it's supposed to do. KTEA also does written expression fluency, and the WJ5 does sentence writing fluency. The Wyatt does none of that. Okay. The WISC, going into cognitive ability, the WISC does arithmetic. And then you have visuospatial representation, block design, visual puzzles. Again, the WISC does that. Naming speed quality, so that's your visual spatial representation. And then you have your reasoning with verbal quantitative information. That's arithmetic math. And then you have your figure weights arithmetic, which is quantitative information as well. And then you have your reasoning with abstract visual information and matrix reasoning, block design, and your WISC 5. So it's a little bit more technical with that one compared to the other ones have a little bit more of some leniency of what they review. Moving forward with mathematics skills, the KTEA and the Wyatt and the WJ5, they all do math, but one does math applications, which is the KTEA. The Wyatt does math problem solving, and the WJ5 does applied problems. All right, so if you look at the Wyatt, that one, just like I was saying earlier with written expression, it does the whole essay, while it also does math problem solving. So for a child that cannot read, the Wyatt is not for them at all, because they can't read to problem solve, and they can't read, so they can't write an essay. All right. So you have to pick and choose which ones you're going to do based on the child's ability. All right. So then you have the WJ5 that does applied problems. So you have the KTEA with math applications, the Wyatt with math problem solving, and then you have the WJ5 with applied problems. So, you know, you can kind of pick and choose. But do you guys see why the KTEA is more my favorite? Then you have math calculations. All right, so the KTEA does math calculations. And then you have the Wyatt that does numerical operations. See, it's a little bit more difficult. It's one of those where, in my mind, it's not going to be one that's for many, many, many children with special needs. I don't think it's the most appropriate test, if you will. Then you have the WJ5 that does just calculations, okay? Fluency, KTEA, Wyatt, and WJ5 all do math fluency, all right? So that is how that one goes. So it comes down to the WJ5 and the KTEA. So it's really a preference of the evaluator. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of, because we're going to continue this. This is continuing. There's going to be more. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty of how you can request certain assessments. Technically, they will tell you, well, you know, that's up to the evaluator. True. Okay. But does that mean that I have to accept that answer? Even though that it is accurate, it is, you know, what most say, what most school systems go by? Yes. But do I have to accept it? No. Okay? always say, it's not about the so-called rule, if you will. It's more about what you can do to persuade them that what you're saying is the better way, because in the end, an IEP is all about the student. So if your way is better than their way, then it's got to be your way, right? So the goal is the student getting what's needed and appropriate. The goal is the student making progress. The goal is finding out where that child's present levels are. The goal is making sure that the present levels stay accurate so that the goals and services and accommodations and modifications are on point and serving the child productively. So if you're in an IEP and you say, okay, I want a psychoeducational evaluation on my child, I want a speech, I want OT, etc. Okay? So they say, okay, and then they check off the boxes that say, academic usually is the psychoed. They may check off, cognitive or IQ. They may check off speech. They may check off OT, and they may check off behavior, stuff like that. Well, that's more generalized versus being specific as to, well, what are you going to give them? What's the name? And I always like to pick and choose with the team because I want their input. It's a team-based decision in my mind. Why should it be just the evaluator's decision? Because they don't know my child any better than I do. So it should be a team-based decision. So I like discussing it as a team. And then we collaborate. And I say, okay, well, this is, what my thoughts are. What are your thoughts? And we kind of go back and forth. And then we decide on a test and on a name. And then you put into the comments any other evaluation the evaluator deems appropriate. I think, okay, that is very fair. Okay, so you're agreeing on a assessment that you want, that they do, and then you're agreeing that they can choose any other assessment that they feel is appropriate, which I think is very fair. And then it allows the evaluator to do more with your child, and you're still able to get the assessment that you believe would be appropriate, okay? So that's important, and it's important for you to be very vocal on what it is that you want done and why. And it is okay to say after an assessment is done and say you didn't have input on what it was going to be about, you can still say, this evaluation did not evaluate my child in all areas of need. You can also say that this evaluation does not cover all areas we believe are in need but we're unsure of because we have to assess to see if that's an issue. All right, so there's two reasons you can assess. There's not just one, that your child's not making progress, okay, let's assess. No, children change all the time, so you can do it yearly if you want to, and you just discuss it with the school. But, you have that mandatory triennial, and you do your assessments to see where the child is. Well, the thing is sometimes if there's a problem, we don't always know the answer, okay? So it's like if you go to the doctor doesn't always know the answer. They have to run some tests, right? Same thing. You have to run some tests to figure out where the problem is. So you don't always have an evaluation because it's the triennial, and you just do the normal evaluations and kind of just do the basic. You want to dig deep. And, if you feel like something's not right, your child's not making progress or whatever's going on, don't just go to the generalized evaluations. Think out of the box and say, I think we need to go above and beyond. We need to do multiple. Like if you wanted to do, the Wyatt and the KTEA, those can be done together. And then you're getting two different areas of the same area, so you can kind of see where the deficit lies. Or you can go above and beyond and do other different assessments that would cater to your child's needs. Because that's what it all comes down to, is catering to the child's needs, seeing where their deficits are, then applying what is learned and doing something about it, right? Coming up with a plan of action, getting it into the present levels, creating the right goals, creating the right services, creating the right accommodations so that your child can succeed, all right? But you can't just, you want to stem and stay away from evaluators or staff members. And I don't even try changing minds anymore. I just move on and change people. That's just me. Maybe it's a bad thing, but that's what I do. I just don't even bother anymore. Like, if they have a closed mind, that's just not somebody I want to deal with anyway. So I don't try to reopen their mind, you know? So my thing is you have to focus on, number one, you need to make sure that you have a team that has open minds. You all have to work together, all right? And someone's got to be the leader to create a team that is going to work together versus having this power struggle that seems to happen all the time, because someone's got to take charge. I always take charge because nobody else does in an effective way. So I've always taken charge. Am I bossy? No. But do I expect certain things? Oh yeah. And do I expect them to go by the book and to make sure that they do what's needed and appropriate for my child? Oh yeah. And if you're not going to have an open mind, then you're not going to work for me and you're not going to work for my child. So there's no point in you being on my team if you're not going to get along with me and you're not going to get along with my child. Because if you can't deal with me, it's not going to work. I mean, my district has gone so far to say about me, I don't know if I should take this as good or bad. No, I take it as good, to be honest. Is they said, if you can't deal with Raven, like there was a special education teacher who wanted to go into administration. And so the director of special ed said to her, because she was on my team at one point, if you can't deal with Raven, there's no way you can come into administration, you know? I'm like the test. Because if they can't deal with a parent and they're not able, they're intimidated by you, which is what I hear a lot. They're intimidated by me. Then that's not someone that should be on my team, because it's not personal. You're only intimidated if it's personal. All right. This is about a child. So I'm going to advocate for any child I am working towards getting what's needed and appropriate along with my own. And you can't be intimidated at the fact that I'm going to argue what needs to happen if I need to, because what you're saying doesn't make sense. So you have to be able to, you know, put that fine line there and understand that, you know, when you're discussing things as a team, be okay with, hey, guys, this isn't personal. It's not. I have nothing personal against you. Now, will I argue with you in your thought process and what you're doing? Oh, yeah. But will I attack you as a person? No, not at all. But I will address things as they come in regards to my child and my child's education. All right? And teachers and, you know, evaluators and people on our IEP team, we're all people. They take things personally, and then it becomes kind of a mess. But they've got to get over themselves. And they've got to learn that this is about the child, not about them. Now, they take it as we're stating when we advocate. They're taking it as we're stating that they're ineffective. They're not doing their job. They're not doing the right thing. And to be quite honest, sometimes that's what it is. But sometimes it's they need to just change up what they're doing. They just need to think outside the box, change it up a little bit. And that's a lot of times what is the problem. Now, where a different problem and bigger problem lies is when they want to have a closed mind to things, and it then causes a standstill. And for me, and I want you guys to do the same, is you don't address a standstill. You got to keep moving. Whether they're coming with you or not, you keep moving. All right? So you, as the leader, I always say, you got to become the CEO of your IEP meeting, okay? Because you're the one who knows your child best. I don't care what anybody says. And as an educator myself, I do not know your child better than you. So anybody that says otherwise is full of it, okay? So one thing that I do in IEP meetings sometimes, especially when there's this standstill, and people are offended because I'm very assertive and can be very aggressive if I need to, is I'll say, listen, are you a mom? Do you have children? And I say, I'm not asking that to be rude. I'm just asking you a question. If you don't mind, could you answer? And then typically they do, and they'll say, you know, most of them say yes. And I say, okay, so all I'm asking you to do all right? You don't have to answer this. Is as we go about this meeting, act as if it's your own child. You will understand me a lot better if you look at it as that. As if we're talking about your child. Then you will understand where I'm coming from, and there will be that mutual respect there. All right, so what I'm doing when I do that, guys, all right, just giving you a tip before I hop off here. So if you're joining, all right, we're talking about assessments. I'm kind of going into, the IEP meeting and addressing these things and kind of the hiccups that can come up, is you got to deal with the things, all right? But watch the replay if you haven't caught it. And make sure you post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure you tell us where you're from. And join the group if you want to. Just put in the search bar Autism Mom Rocks IEP group. Okay? So one of the things that's important in your IEP and addressing some of the hiccups that come up, one of the things that drives me crazy, which I'm dealing with right now, is, hi Dorothy, how are you? One of the things that I'm dealing with right now is where the team will ignore you. Drives me nuts. All right? They eventually start talking. They will. But it's a power struggle, and you have to address that, okay? You can't let yourself get so worked up that it affects your thought process, all right? They're going to answer you. So it just ticks you off, and that's what it's supposed to do. That's what they're doing it for. Or they're trying to find out information before they get back to you, all right? So always, relate in an IEP meeting if you feel that somebody is becoming offended, all right? Because even though I can be a complete bulldog in an IEP meeting, really, it's never personal. It really isn't. I know how it can sound. I do. And I do know how I can be very aggressive in my advocating because, number one, I'm passionate about it. Number two, I don't put up with bullshit at all. So if they've already fed me bullshit, it's done, So that's where I'll snap because don't feed me that. Let's just have some respect for each other here, I don't feed you bullshit, you don't feed me bullshit. And, that's how things should go. And the thing is, guys, and I'm telling you this because don't be afraid to say that. Call them out. The minute you call them out is the minute they're going to stop doing certain things. That doesn't mean they're going to stop doing it, but they're going to stop doing certain things. They're going to know you've caught on to the things that they're doing, all right? And that is the first step in them knowing that you're starting to understand your stuff. You may not understand it all. You may not say it correctly, but you are going to figure it out. And that is going to be the first step of them knowing that you are coming to yourself, so to speak, all right? Coming to America. Yes, I think 2's coming out soon. But you are now coming into your IEP CEO self, all right? And when you do that, I say, put on your face, all right? I feel ashamed sometimes saying, hey, you got to put on a face when you go into the IEP meeting, and that's online or wherever, I always say do it online. It's a lot safer, all right? You're not pressured to sign anything. You're not, ordered to do anything, any of that, all right? You are literally in your own home. You could be in your pajamas and then a shirt, and you just have your paperwork all over the place, and you feel a little bit more comfortable. And it's just as effective, if not better, all right? So keep it virtual, guys. Keep it virtual. Then you stay away from that intimidation kind of thing, feeling awkward in front of everybody, face to face. And, you're face to face online, and it's a lot, more productive in my mind. And it's a good way to communicate. You can record, and feel comfortable. Okay? So just remember that it's not so much being always a bulldog. Sometimes it's about relating, which I do in the sense of asking them, are you mom? and then going into, just pretend at this IEP meeting, when you talk to me, pretend we're talking about your child. What would you recommend for your child? What would you do to make things better and for the child to progress for your child? All right? And when you flip things like that, things are thought about a little bit differently. You can also let them know, like I said, that it's not personal. There's nothing wrong with saying these things out loud. Why not put it all on the table? Be transparent about it. Put it all there. Here you go. This is how I feel. Be transparent, open. I'm not going to bullshit with you. You don't bullshit with me. This is how we're going to do things. We work together. We work as a team. That's how we can collaborate and be productive. Because if it's always this power struggle and, someone's trying to one up the other, it's just childish, So if they know how to listen to you because they know that you are going to give good advice and you know what you're talking about, and then you work with them and hear them out, then that can work. Now, I will tell you, that does not always happen. There are many times I sit there and think, I'm sitting here listening to an idiot. That's what I'm doing. And I need to try to not say that they're an idiot to hurt their feelings, but this really sucks. That doesn't mean that doesn't happen. But a lot of times you can reason with people and you can humanize them enough to take you seriously and want to do better with your child. And again, the assessments, guys, it all comes down to who's evaluating your child. And, once you get proficient in reading evaluations, you will know right away when you see that evaluation that your child's evaluation was done with fidelity. And if it wasn't, ask for an IEE. What's the worst that can happen? They take you to due process because they think their IEP is perfect? Very rarely happens. Does it happen? Sure. Is it their right? Sure. But is it something that's going to be very productive for them? No. So more than likely you'll get the IEE. Can't guarantee it, but more than likely. And I can say it's only happened twice that they, in the last year, that they have taken a parent to due process, and then they ended up settling anyway. It's so stupid. So don't fear that, okay? Know the laws, but I always throw it out there. Hey, if you want to deny it, just send me a request, Let them know you're not scared about it, and then go about your way. So many people are scared of due process, and, don't be afraid to ask for an IEE just because they can request due process if they disagree. I mean, if they disagree, that means they think they can prove that their assessment is top-notch, perfect, and there's no question about it. When does that ever happen? All right, so we are going to continue this, and we're going to talk about memory, visual memory, auditory comprehension. We're going to talk about language use and processing speed. We'll go into a little bit of phonological processing, problem solving, and visual motor integration. All right, so that will be our next chat on assessments. And then we'll probably have one more chat in reference to assessments before we wrap it up. All right, and this is just important to know, guys. Knowing what assessments are out there, what they do, and then you're able to look them up and really figure out what ones would be best for your child. Which ones would show in the best way where your child is. And that's what it all comes down to. And if it doesn't, do another. And that's what assessors need to be more open to, is doing another if it doesn't work. Okay, 2 things before I go. 1, never accept in an evaluation, proceed with caution. Ever. Number 2, never accept an evaluation that they couldn't do it. All right? Now, ask for the reasoning of why they couldn't do it. Can you tell me where I can find that comparison chart? Oh, shoot. I've had this for years. All right. It was the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. It was a research of all of the different assessments. But I got this like forever ago in a class that I took on assessments. So I'm not sure, Dorothy. So anyway, you don't want to, number one, accept an assessment that says proceed with caution. I honestly laugh at that. What do you mean it's almost like you're at a stop sign, and it says proceed with caution, there's ice. Or, I mean, what does that mean? What type of caution? Why do I have to proceed with caution? That just sounds so dumb to me. But, so that has to go. Okay. And then the next one is if it says that it was, unable to be incomplete. All right. So that's not acceptable. So what else are you doing? I don't care if you couldn't complete it. Why couldn't you complete it? But you're going to do something else. You're not going to just, we couldn't complete it, and you move on to some other type of test and not do the test that is for the cognitive and the IQ and all that. You can't just skip that because you couldn't do it. All right. And just like a couple weeks ago, I talked about how assessments are done with nonverbal children. So there's no excuse of, I can't assess this child because they can't speak. That's a bunch of malarkey. Oh my God, I just sounded like my mother. So you don't want to do that. All right. You don't want to accept that. And you don't want to accept, we couldn't because, they were not able to sit for 10 minutes and they were up and down and disruptive. Okay, well, why didn't you stop the test and do it another day? If it means that the assessor has to spread out the test in 15-minute increments, so what? It's them that doesn't want to do it. So you have to say that. You have to say, I don't care if you have to split up the test into 10-minute increments. You do it based on my child's need. What is it they need? They can only sit for 10 minutes? All right. You got 10 minutes to do this test, and then you got to come back another day until you finish it. And that's what happens. Versus doing a test, and then it's not done right or insufficient or couldn't be finished because they wanted to push a child through a test that wasn't able to sit down anymore, isn't able to do what's being asked of them because they're frustrated, they're having sensory issues, behavior issues, whatever the case may be. Why would you push a student that's not going to be paying attention any longer in an assessment that is several hours or whatnot with maybe a break? That's not productive. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care that you don't have time. I don't care that you have 50 million kids to serve. Schools need to hire more professionals. That's what needs to happen. I believe that's what we pay our taxes for. I don't really care about their budget. Maybe I sound like a total bitch. I don't know. But I don't care about their budget. I care about my child getting what's needed and appropriate. So y'all need to deal with the rest. Not my problem. Okay? So stop trying to understand all the technicalities and politics of what goes on behind the scenes in education and fight for your child. Because in all honesty, it's not your problem. And you think about this, okay? I can't tell you how many, I don't check the box, by the way. I don't check the box, all right? The box where it says check it and Medicaid pays for it and all that crap, I don't check it. But think about how many people do check it. School isn't even paying for it out of a budget. It's paid for. That should make you irate. That they have the audacity to bitch about money when you know it all comes down to money. And providing what's needed for your child based on budgets when the money that is billed to Medicaid isn't even billed to the school. It's not even charged. You got federal funds and everything else going into it. So fight for what your child needs. I don't care if it takes them 30 days to do an evaluation and takes 30 days of their time. If it's what your child needs and is at their pace and done in a way that is productive and in a way that is going to show their ability with fidelity, with honesty, that's true and what is accurate, then that's what you have to go by. All right? So have a good night. Wow, didn't even put that together. Yeah. No, you sound that way too. Shared. Thanks, Kim. Yeah, share this, guys. Definitely share this. So, hey, Christina, how are you? Hey, Dorothy. All right, guys, don't forget, post a 1 below if it's your first to third time text me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure to say hi, tell me where you're from, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.